how does Grace Speech Therapy Services help those with learning disabilities, specifically auditory processing disorders?
Yeah, so just a little bit about how I got into it, which applies to
Mm.
that question, is I have an audiologist business partner, and she basically said, "Hey, Jill, if you get trained in this specialized disorder, I have a wait list for you of patients to be seen." And so I was like, okay. She said, "I'll show you how to set up your own business." It was during COVID, it went for it, and it just was an amazing kickstart to everything. And so a lot of times, I mean, truly during my basically target age of what I'm seeing is male students in the first grade, second grade, and then all the way up to college, which it's like, oh, I wish we would have caught this earlier where we could have helped you. But it's really the literacy focus, I would say. I'm trained in Orton Gillingham tutoring for dyslexia. And so it is a lot of, speech paths help with bridging that gap of, okay, you have an individualized education plan. Let's make sure that these needs are being met. So placement in the classroom, making sure, a big thing, and maybe it's just the United States, is when all the kids have their name on a popsicle stick and then they draw the name, and then they're like on the spot have to answer a
Mm.
question or they have to read. And for someone with auditory processing disorder, they're 10 steps behind. And now all of a sudden, everybody's looking at you, expecting you to answer your question. So with the speech path, I work a lot with teachers with their individual education plan, literacy, dyslexia, ADHD, just really helping them in the grade school learn how to function. Then also I see a lot of student athletes. And so with that, I work a lot, and when you're working in a football game, lots of directions that you have to follow quickly, lots
Yeah.
of yelling, loud noises. And so it's really working with coaches, and then concussion prevention as well, because that can be a cause of APD.
Yeah. Oh wow. I mean, that is like a lot. There's so many different types of people.
Yeah.
Especially
Yep.
the sporting the athletes as well. Yeah, of course. Of course it would be so difficult to try and like follow instructions as someone who
Yep.
has audio processing. So like you put those sort of strategies in place to
Yep.
help. So and yeah, that kind of leads to my next question then. Like sort of like what kinds of yes, like what kinds of strategies then do you put in place then to help, as you said you do with the
Yep.
classrooms? Is there any sort of like techniques that you use to sort of help kids or adults with APD in terms of like
Yeah.
helping their sort of like developing of their speech? If that makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have this scale of children to adults, and I am frequently seeing traumatic brain injury patients who
Mm.
have APD as a result of that. And so in the work setting, in the adult setting, we really focus on, okay, show me your computer setup. What can we do to eliminate distractions? What can we do to teach you strategies? So when you're on a conference call, how can we make it easy for you to be able to refer back to everything? One particular client owns his own business, super successful, had a TBI, traumatic brain injury. And then it was just starting from, okay, how do we build your business back up? And so a lot of it was client to client interactions. We have a go-to counselor so I have the audiologist and we're business partners.
Mhm.
We together have a go-to counselor to send people to be comfortable talking about their APD, because that's a huge barrier, as well as
Yeah,
just
massive.
like, because most people will just say, okay, cool, like moving on. But when you have something, it's definitely more difficult to express it, especially since APD is an invisible disease where you wouldn't know. For kids, pragmatic wise, we work on strategies such as, okay, you're in the lunchroom, nobody has to know, because kids are a little, more self-conscious. Pick a spot where you're by the window and all of your friends are facing the direction that works for you. And so it's just teaching the strategies of pragmatic, so social situations, academic, and then workplace.